And good morning, everybody. Nice to have you with us on this Tuesday and the 27th day of August, 2024. Obviously, no high heat last week. I was dropping off a child at Loyola Marymount out there in Los Angeles. Was all up top on top of the Dodgers with Seattle and Tampa. Back with you here today. We look forward to it. Alana here momentarily. Joy and Mr. Benetti are in charge today as far as the program is concerned on this busy Tuesday morning. Since we last discussed, there's not an unbelievable amount of inning go home pennant races that we got going right now in the sport with about 30 games to go. I mean, when you get right down to it, Kansas City, Minnesota, and the Guardians should all get in the postseason. More on that in a minute. Since we last discussed, the Giants are out, Texas is out, and I think the Red Sox might be out because they trail now these teams in the American League Central for that wild card spot by a whole bunch. It was about 6-7 games, and that's a lot of real estate for Boston to make up. And they have played very poorly. They've lost 5 in a row, so I'm not so sure about the Red Sox. And are those Seattle little signs of life recently? They fired Scott Service since the last time we joined with you, and now you can't kill Jerry DePorto on that decision whatsoever. It's not, they can't hit. And something had to be done to salvage this season. They had that awful road trip. They brought Dan Wilson in. They played a little better. They had that big comeback, and they did win 2 out of 3 against the Giants. They won last night. So from that standpoint, I think that was the move that had to be made out there in Seattle. I don't know if that's going to be good enough, though, to catch Houston as far as the American League West is concerned. They're not making the wild card scenario of the Mariners because they got 65 losses, and Minnesota has 59. So they're 6 back. Probably not going to do that. So their best chance is to make up the 4 games that separate them and the Astros right now in a division. Houston has got a tough schedule at the moment. Baltimore for 4 games. They got out of Camden with a split. Lost a tough game last night to the Phillies in the extra innings. Hader's second inning of relief, and of course Harper. But Houston, with some pitching right now, Verlander returning. They almost got 6 starters, and they play Seattle at home in September. You got to give Houston the advantage. So I don't know where there is a pennant race. Yankees and the Orioles, maybe. But remember, both are in the playoffs. I'm looking for a scenario where somebody gets knocked out. And the only place you're going to find that might be in the National League for that last spot between the Braves and the Mets. Now, the Mets had a crippling loss. They've had a million of them all year with that bullpen of theirs. But the Sunday loss to San Diego, and Jackson Merrill should win Rookie of the Year, by the way. But that Sunday loss to the Padres when they were looking to win 3 out of 4 was an absolute disaster. There's the home run in the 9th. Obviously, the 2-run homer by Profar in the 8th got the game tied. This was an atrocious loss by the Mets. Again, they're resilient. They've been plucky. He's done a good job. Mendoza's the manager. But there's only so many body blows that you can take. And Atlanta now has been much better lately despite all these incredible injuries. And they got a 3-game lead. And after this weekend, the Braves don't see the Phillies again. And the Mets have 2 series with the Phils. The Mets also have to play in Milwaukee. And the Mets also have to go to Atlanta where they never play that great to begin with. Not to mention the fact that the Mets are in Phoenix for the 3 games against the hottest team in the sport right now in the Diamondbacks. But if you're going to find a pennant race between now and September 29th, quote-unquote a pennant race, this would possibly be it. Mets with 63 losses, Braves with 60. Obviously the Phillies, I know it's only a 6-game lead, but they're going to win the division. Milwaukee is home free in the National League Central. Nobody's going to go near them or from a wild card perspective in that division, whether it's the Cubs, the Cardinals, they're finished. The Giants aren't making the playoffs. They're too far back, too. They're 5 back of Atlanta. They got 65 something. They're not getting in. So really, when you get right down to it, you got the Mets and the Braves as far as the 63-60 is concerned. So I think, if you're asking me, I think there is only 1 spot available in the postseason out of the 12 teams that make it. Now, as far as seeding and winning divisions, that's a little different because they got the Yankees and the Orioles, who obviously are playing for, most likely the #1 seed throughout the American American League with the way the Guardians have played. The Yankees have a 2-game lead right now. Obviously, they've hit 1 million home runs. Judge has been incredible, and the Orioles have not played well now for a long period of time, and they have to go to Dodger Stadium for 3 games this week while the Yankees are playing Washington. So that lead could increase. From a Baltimore perspective, that is somewhat, that's a problem. So I think the Yankees right now have to be considered the solid favorite to win the division with a 2-game lead third to play. The Baltimore team should be the 4th seed, but their starting pitching is a mess. I still don't like we don't like their bullpen. So, I mean, the Orioles might end up as the 4th seed in the American League. Now, the Royals, Guardians, and Twins are interesting in the American League Central. And the Royals, who never beat a good team, including 2 out of 3 this weekend, losing to Philadelphia at home with bad crowds in Kansas City, 18,000, 20,000. You would think in a pennant race late August, the Phillies, no football yet, do a little better. But regardless, Kansas City did a nice job with the doubleheader sweep yesterday, 4-3 first game, night game. Obviously, Perez, hit 2 home runs, grand slam included. So Kansas City, after really, struggling against the better teams, including Minnesota, they're only a game back of the Royals, of the Guardians right now for divisional supremacy. And, the Guardians have played badly for a long period of time. They are 13-15 since August 2nd. If that is not concerning enough, the Guardians since Memorial Day are 39-40. They are under 500 for basically half the season. So maybe they can be taken in that American League Central, and maybe surprisingly enough, Kansas City can do it. Kansas City will have the Guardians at home. They also have Minnesota at home. Kansas City will go to Houston over the weekend. I still don't think they're going to win the division, but I think they probably right now will get in as a wild card team. So we keep an eye. On that. I just gave you the Yankees. The Houston, I think, will figure out a way to stave off Seattle to win the American League West. So if you're asking me right this second, I think the Yankees will be the 1 seed. I think probably. I think Cleveland will hold on and be the 2 seed, get the bye. Houston, the 3 seed. Orioles, the 4 seed. And then Minnesota, Kansas City will fight out for the 5 and the 6. And remember, that means Baltimore would play the better team out of Minnesota, Kansas City. And then the Orioles would go play the Yankees in a divisional series, which is something we've screamed about for a long time. They should reseed. They should not be playing the Yankees again if they just played them 162 games in the same division. Makes no sense. Baseball's got to change that. We've discussed this forever, and for whatever the reason, they don't do it. I don't quite get that. In the National League, Philadelphia, the Dodgers are playing very well. And by the way, the Dodgers are not going to lose the division. I know Arizona and San Diego are on their heels. Diamondbacks have been superb. San Diego, after struggling against the Mets, have bounced back and played better. Win last night against the Cardinals. I think it's going to be San Diego and Arizona in that wild card scenario. And then I think in the 6th seed, Atlanta will go play at Milwaukee in that first round. I think the Dodgers and Phillies will get the bye in the National League. Listen, Arizona's done a wonderful job, and San Diego is right behind them, and Tatis is now in spring training, and he'll be back here before you know it, and the Padres can hit. And the Padres, maybe Darvish too, but the scenario is Arizona's been so good sweep in Fenway. They won their last 6 on the road after losing 3 in Tampa. The Diamondbacks and the Padres play the last weekend of the year in Arizona, last 3 games, which is interesting, is they could play those 3 games to determine who hosts the next 3 between the 2 teams. Because remember, the first wild card gets home field, and that's probably going to be either Arizona or San Diego. And then, of course, they might play against each other the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of that week. Ohtani, to see if he gets to 50-50 will be interesting. He's now at 40-40. And Judge, where he's going to be with the home run record, is interesting, too. And by the way, this is nonsense, the idea that Judge is the American League home run champ. No, he's not. Judge is baseball's single-season home run champ. Nobody who follows records and who follows the sport thinks that McGwire at 70 or Bonds at 73 are the single-season home run champs. The big baseball fan who's a sports fan knows that Judge at 60, whatever he's got, 62 or 63, 62, he is the home run champ. Got a heck of a chance to break that. That is where we begin. Lots to talk about today. Alana, of course, is in the house, and she says hello, Miss Rizzo. Take it away.
Hi, Chris. Good morning. Good to be back with you. I feel like we haven't been on TV together for a long time. You were in my old stomping grounds, of course, near Manhattan Beach, California. I am jealous. I'm taking a different approach than you are. I'm looking at the teams that are on the fringe, on the outside looking in, and what they need to do to force their way into the postseason. I've picked 3 teams based on what you said in your brushback. Number 1, the Mariners. What do they need to improve upon to force the issue and find a way to win the division or at least get into the postseason via that AL wildcard? They have to hit, Chris. They have to score. The Mariners are 54-11 when they score 4 or more runs, which is second best in the majors, but they're 13-54 when they score 3 runs or fewer. Now, Julio Rodriguez is hitting just 180. They need their superstars to be superstars. Obviously, they got Randy Arozarena. He hasn't done what they expected him to do as of yet. Justin Turner is there as well, but Julio Rodriguez hitting just 180, 0 home runs, 3 RBI in 13 games since returning from the injured list. They need to find a way to hit because their pitching staff, particularly the starters, tremendous for the M's. The other 2 teams I'm focused on, the Mets and the Braves. Which one of these 2 teams in the National League is going to get in? The Mets, they need another starting pitcher, Chris, to step up. They're 29-11 when either Sean Manaea or David Peterson start, but they're just 39-52, so a losing record when anyone else starts. They need somebody besides Manaea, besides David Peterson, to give them a legitimate chance to win every 5th day. All right, the Braves. Now, this is a team that, unfortunately, I think more than anybody else in Major League Baseball has been absolutely decimated by injury. They need to find a way to avoid more injuries to significant folks. Ronald Acuna Jr., Spencer Strider, Austin Riley are all out for the season. On the bright side, though, they are getting Ozzie Albies back at some point in September. In addition to trying to avoid injuries, because they have been absolutely crushed by them, the Atlanta Braves kind of like a mash unit, they need Max Fried to pitch better. 5.26 ERA in 5 starts since returning from the injured list. Obviously, we know what Chris Sale has done for them this season. They have a decent starting staff, but Max Fried needs to get back to where we know he can be, and they need to try to stay as healthy as possible, and hopefully Ozzie Albies coming back into that lineup can give them a boost.
Yeah, 100%. Braves have played a little better. I think the Braves are going to get in and beat the Phillies 2 out of 3. Good win yesterday. They play in Philly this weekend. I think Atlanta will get that last spot. And I think the Mets have had a very good year for them. They didn't expect this necessarily. I think they're going to come up a little short. That loss on Sunday, they're 5 outs away, 3 out of 4 San Diego. That's a game you have to win, especially when you are trailing. You cannot lose that game. Now, the Mets are plucky. They bounced back a little bit, but they've had too many of those defeats. That was an unbelievable loss. Boy, the Met fan is crushed after Sunday afternoon. Alana's got a lot to do. She'll get us going. That is a fascinating one. Votto, of course, announced his retirement last week. He was superb with that whole thing he did, and I did not know anything about it. Alana may have been on a secret, so that was great there, too. Alana, I know you love him. He's a character. He's a great sports fan, and baseball will miss him. So let's discuss that for a sec. Go ahead.
Yeah, I did know about that. He got in touch with me about 2 weeks prior to that happening. He wanted to make sure that I was working with you on that day because he wanted to make sure that he would answer my questions thoroughly and thoughtfully, and then he was going to give you the business. He obviously has a tremendous amount of respect for you, but Joey Votto officially announcing his retirement, Chris. So this is a debate that we've talked about a lot. Do you think that Joey Votto is headed to Cooperstown?
Well, it's fascinating that you bring that. Yes, I do, as I think the era, the writer in this period likes some of the things that Joey has, and I'm not going to dispute the fact that it's close. But here is something that is interesting. Votto's got 2,135 career hits. Another first baseman historically has got 2,182 hits. Votto's got 356 career home runs in a ballpark that was conducive to it in Cincinnati. This first baseman that I'm going to mention has only got 162, played in ballparks that were not conducive. Votto's got 1,144 career RBIs. This first baseman's got 1,071. Votto's on base is 409. This first baseman's on base is 384. Votto is a lifetime 294 hitter. This first baseman is 296. Both first basemen won an MVP. 2 championships for one first baseman, none for Votto. Votto 249 postseason. This first baseman 265. The other first baseman is Keith Hernandez.
Yeah,
Keith
Keith Hernandez should be in. Yes, I think Keith Hernandez should also be in the Hall of Fame. But if you look at Joey Votto, Jason Stark brought up a good point one time, and I realized that walks are not hits. I understand that. Unless the bases are loaded and you get a walk, you're not driving in a run. But if you took it into account how patient Joey Votto was and how many times that he was able to get on base just via the walk, and you translated them into hits, he'd be a Hall of Famer. Now, Joey Votto has a 409 career OBP. It's the 9th highest for anyone with at least 5,000 plate appearances who debuted in the expansion era. I think Keith Hernandez is a Hall of Famer, but I also think Joey Votto is a Hall of Famer too.
Yeah, see, Hernandez never got any percentage of the vote. I think Keith's a little shy of the Hall of Fame. I know the Met fan doesn't want to hear that. And let's not talk about defense, because Hernandez is the best defensive first baseman probably in the history of the sport. And listen, he's going to make it. Who cares what I think? I don't vote. I don't have a vote. It's writers. He is going to make it based on what you just said. I mean, the on-base percentage is very, very significant. He's got 356 home runs. He's got basically a 300 hitter, 294. He's won an MVP, and Joey's going to get in, so he doesn't need me. Now, I'm not sure. You know, I could be swayed one way. If Brian Kenny, if he was here, he'd probably sway me one way. If somebody else was here, Bill Madden, my old buddy, he might sway me another way. I think he's borderline. But I do think he's going to make it. So that's the issue there. Listen, he's a 244 lifetime hitter in the postseason. It encompasses 3 games, 265 for Keith. It encompasses 30 games. Votto does not have an extra base hit in any of his 11 postseason games. They say, well, it's only 11, Chris. Well, I mean, postseason, is somewhat significant. And you know what Phil Rizzuto used to tell me about Ted Williams, and Yogi Berra said the same thing. Sometimes Ted was a little bit more interested in hitting than in winning. Because sometimes in the bottom of the 9th inning, when it's 2 out, nobody on, you're down by a run, and that 3-2 pitch that's a millimeter off the plate, sometimes Ted Williams has to swing at that pitch because the on-deck hitter is not as good as he is, and a 2-out walk down by a run is not what you're looking for out of Ted Williams, who's the best hitter in the sport. And Ted would not care. He would not go out of his strike zone to try to make something happen in that situation and leave it to the next guy. And that's why I sometimes think the walks can be a little overrated. And remember, Votto was a guy who hit in the middle of the lineup. He didn't hit 7th. He hit 3rd and 4th. So that's why I think a little overrated is that on base for that hitter in the middle of the lineup. Because Williams walked all the time. Instead of maybe swinging a bat in situations where you want him to swing, he'd take his base, which is, according to Rizzuto and Yogi, who played against him forever, was a little detriment in Williams' career profile. That's just food for thought. Go ahead. Let me hear.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that Joey Votto also had the protection in the lineup, perhaps, that Ted Williams did as well. But if there's a character clause, Joey Votto's in, just based on personality. As far as what he means to the sport, he can do whatever he wants. Maybe he'll be in broadcasting. One more question for you. Will Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani be unanimous MVPs in their respective leagues?
I don't know how that can't be. I mean, I thought you were going to ask me an MVP question about the both of them. I mean, listen, Soto's been superb, but Votto's going to hit 60-something homers. You just mentioned Ohtani. He's going to get 50 steals and 50 home runs. I think that's a little overrated because Willie, Aaron, they would have done the same thing with the stolen bases in those days if they wanted to. And Willie hit 50 homers. But Ohtani has had an incredible year. Judge has been superb. He's a great outfielder as well in center field. They're both good. I think so, right? I mean, Marte's now hurt.
What about the Met camp, though, that's saying that Francisco Lindor should be considered more in the MVP category in the National League because Ohtani doesn't play defense? What's your take on that?
Well, the Mets may not make the playoffs. So if he doesn't make the playoffs,
Ohtani's on a first-place team.
I can't put him in. Now, if there was nobody else out there, I would consider it. But, I mean, Ohtani's going to hit again. 50 steals, 50 homers. Now, he's got Freeman and Betts in the middle of the lineup, which helps. He gets pitched to. But, that's why Judge's year is even more incredible because Stanton's out half the time, and he's very streaky, and he's had Verdugo. And, I mean, he had J.D. Davis hitting behind him earlier in the year at one point. And he still got 50-something homers.
the contrarian to that would say that Judge plays in a playground. He plays in a park that lends itself, that, you know, the right field porch, short porch, lends itself to Judge. But I think Aaron Judge is the unanimous MVP in the American League, just based on the fact that if he keeps going at this pace, he'll hit 69 home runs, breaking his own record, obviously, of 62. All right, coming up, Ariel.
Bettor's Eye is presented by BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today. Please gamble responsibly.
Ariel Epstein's been on a roll, 2-1 again last week.
I love over 4.5 strikeouts for the Giants lefty Kyle Harrison tonight.
There's a strike 3 call. You got him. Strikeout number 5.
The White Sox starter tonight is Jonathan Cannon, and I like his over 15.5 outs.
Got him on a changeup. The night is done for Jonathan Cannon.
This one's a really good one for the D-backs. That's why I like their team total over of 4.5 runs.
Del Castillo gives it a ride. Way back and gone. Hits a grand slam in Miami. Jock slams it to right, and that's way gone. And it's 5-1.
We have to send Ariel Epstein to Italy more often. Ever since she went on a little summer sojourn to Capri, wherever it may have been, she has been on fire. Was it 11 or 12 or 12 of 13, 11 of 12? She's now 3 over 500 after an 0-9 start to the year. She has been significantly much improved, 3-0 last week. We're going to do some pictures today. Ariel, good morning. Mike Lorenzen, the Royals with a great Monday in Cleveland. We'll try to keep it going against the Guardians. And you like Lorenzen today. Explain. Go ahead.
I actually like Lorenzen to go under his strikeout prop today, Mad Dog, and thanks for having me on as always. Lorenzen has really struggled. His walk rate, 3rd highest in baseball. K percentage, 13th lowest. Well, now you're getting the Guardians, who literally are one of the least strikeout-prone teams in baseball the last 2 years. Lorenzen's gone under 3.5 Ks in 5 of 6 matchups with low K rate teams. Guardians, you got to take the under when you face Cleveland, under 3.5.
Not a lot of strikeouts, but an interesting logic, and it makes sense there. Woods Richardson for Minnesota. Twins have struggled some. Atlanta's coming to life, but you like over strikeouts against the Braves today up at Target Field. Let me hear your thoughts there. Go ahead.
The Twins starter, Simeon Woods Richardson, pitches much better at home. In fact, his ERA is about a run better. Then you look at the Braves, who have been striking out a lot more this year. 5th highest strikeout rate against the 4-seamer, 2nd highest strikeout rate against sliders. That's what Woods Richardson gets his swing and miss on. He's averaging at home just under 6 strikeouts a game against these high K rate lineups like the Braves. You got to take a 4.5 here. 4.5 over? Yeah, I'll take that. You're getting a low number, Mad Dog, because Woods Richardson pitched a decent amount of innings last start. So they're thinking, okay, he may not stay in the game long enough. The Braves strike out enough for me.
I like it. And, of course, yesterday the Braves scored a bunch of runs early in the game. They're going to maybe let Richardson pitch a little longer because they had to go to that bullpen, that long rain delay. Another pitcher today, and the Red Sox have lost 5 in a row. Toronto much better. Rodriguez for them in Fenway against Boston over the K's. Let's discuss. Go ahead.
At first, I was looking at Rodriguez over hits allowed. However, that number was too juiced. So I'm going to the K's over 4.5 strikeouts for Rodriguez. The Red Sox are averaging 5 strikeouts a game against righty starters. Rodriguez, 6 strikeouts a game against strikeout-prone lineups. I'm looking at it. Colorado, Seattle, Tampa, Oakland, Cubs, Cincinnati. He had at least 5 strikeouts in all of those outings. 4.5 is too low. I'm taking the over on Yariel Rodriguez.
And I'll tell you right now, if you're smart, folks, and you like to do these prop plays, this is the way to go with Ariel on fire, 11-1 in her last 12. And, of course, 0-9 start the year, and now she's 3 over. She has been on fire. Back to Italy she goes. So, Ariel, great to have you with us. Enjoy the day. Appreciate you coming on.
Mad Dog says he's sending me first-class round trip to Italy. I'm all for it.
Hey, Eugenio Suarez has been so clutch for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and this is a huge series. Mets at the D-backs. It's a 9:40 Eastern first pitch. It is Sean Manaea on the hill for the Mets. It is also Eduardo Rodriguez on the bump for the Arizona Diamondbacks, making his 4th start of the 2024 season. Steve Gilbert does a tremendous job covering the Arizona Diamondbacks for MLB.com. Kind enough to join us here today on High Heat. Steve, great to be with you. Let's start with Suarez. This is a guy that was hitting about $170 when it was early on in the year, about the end of July, end of June, beginning of July, and he has been everything to the Diamondbacks the last few weeks. What's changed?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we're all trying to figure that out. You know, he was struggling so much there in June, and there were calls for the Diamondbacks to maybe DFA him, and they still believed that he was going to figure it out. Torey Lovullo's talked about some of his pregame work has changed slightly. You know, some of his looking at more high velocity machines to kind of get himself ready for a game. So that type of stuff maybe, but he's just been red hot for them. And this is the kind of thing that he's done throughout his career at times. He's had some really good stretches and some really good seasons. And that's why they acquired him during the offseason to you know, provide this kind of power. And it just wasn't there for the first few months, but boy, he sure found it.
Yeah, and Corbin Carroll has found it as well, Steve. This is a guy that in order for the Diamondbacks to be where they want to be, Corbin Carroll has to be what he is capable of doing. And something has switched for him, too. What's been the biggest difference?
Yeah, he's, you know, early in the season, he was having trouble catching up to those high fastballs. He was putting a lot more balls on the ground than he had in the past. He's able now to catch up to those balls. Pitchers have found that they no longer can get him out with fastballs up in the strike zone. He's getting more lift on his balls, and those balls are carrying. And, you know, when he gets on base and can use that tremendous speed, it's truly a weapon for him. So he's been a big key for them to get going because, as you pointed out, you know, he really helps make this offense go.
Ketel Marte and Christian Walker on the IL, but Torey Lovullo, the D-backs skipper, is hopeful that they'll be back soon. Ketel Marte was in the conversation for National League MVP. What's the latest on those two?
Yeah, you make a great point there, Alana, because they've had Ketel Marte, Christian Walker, and Gabriel Moreno all on the IL, and who thought that that's when they would really start to get hot or continue to be as hot as they have been. Ketel is doing well. He's doing some running in the pool on a treadmill. They're hoping that it could come back here in the next couple weeks. Christian Walker's been taking swings. He's got that oblique injury, his left oblique, but they feel like he could be back sooner than later now because he is taking some live at bats. So both those guys do back sooner than later, which would be a big help for them.
That would be huge, getting some reinforcements, but the team already clicking on all cylinders without them, so it's only going to get better from there offensively. Let's talk about the starting pitching, though, Steve. Jordan Montgomery pulled out of the starting rotation, placed into the bullpen. The Arizona Diamondbacks were going with a six-man rotation prior to that happening. What is going on with Montgomery? The ERA north of 6 doesn't look good, but you know that he has it in him.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, he was a guy they were really excited to get just right after the season started. I think maybe not having that full spring training has really kind of hampered him. His command isn't what it needs to be for the type of pitcher that he is. You can see the frustration when we talk to him after games where he struggles. He's just aching to do well. And he's really taken these struggles hard because he sees how well the team is playing and he wants to be a contributor for that. So he was a guy they certainly were counting on, a guy they certainly thought was going to figure it out as the year went on. And just Ryan Nelson has pitched really, really well for them his last, 10 plus starts. And so it's just got to the point where it was hard to take Nelson out of the rotation. So instead they turned to taking Montgomery out, which was, would have been a surprise if you had said this, even as recently as a few weeks ago, that this was going to happen.
Yeah, Ryan Nelson 4-0 with the 2.76 ERA since the start of July. So as you mentioned, he's in the rotation. Montgomery is out. And Montgomery was a guy, I think, Steve, was a big reason the Texas Rangers won the World Series last year. Is he a little bit upset about the way that things were handled, perhaps, in the offseason?
I did see his quote in the Boston Herald about that. He didn't say that to us, so I don't have any firsthand knowledge of that. But I'm sure he's disappointed with the way everything has played out and the way the season has played out. And, he told us in Miami right after his last start that he's just trying to be a good teammate right now and not take his struggles and let it affect things going on in the clubhouse and the positive vibes in the clubhouse. So he's happy that they're winning, but certainly he's very disappointed that he's not able to help them in the way that he had hoped and that they had hoped.
All right, let's talk closer role. Paul Sewald was tremendous last year for the Diamondbacks. He's been relieved of those closer duties, but Justin Martinez taking over that spot, a 1.42 earned run average, Steve, in his last 12 appearances. He's 6 for 6. What has made him so successful?
Well, he's got a great arm. I mean, he's he throws 101, 102 with his four seam. His two seam is a little less than that, but gets more movement for him. He's got a split finger fastball. The only question with Justin is throwing strikes, and if he does that consistently, he's going to be great in that role. He has had some trouble with walks, putting base runners on. And that can sometimes come back to bite him. And that's something that you obviously don't want to see in your closer. So that's something that he has to continue to improve on. But they love his arm. They love, his mindset, the way he approaches the ninth inning. He's kind of a fearless kid. So that's that the biggest thing for him is if he can consistently throw strikes, he can do a really nice job in that role.
All right, Chris Russo, my partner in crime here, doubted the Arizona Diamondbacks a lot last year. It was great for us because we got to go to the World Series and have some fun with that. But, Steve, what do the Diamondbacks need to do to catch the Dodgers in the division, or at the very least hold on to that top wild card spot?
Alana, they just have to keep doing what they're doing right now. I mean, they're scoring runs at an amazing pace. I mean, who would have thought, you would have thought they had a good offense, but would you have predicted them to be leading the all of baseball in runs scored here in late August? I don't think anybody really had that. But they just are able to put together 1 through 9 good at bats. You just saw a highlight there of Geraldo Perdomo. He's a guy that doesn't, usually hit monster home runs and isn't going to, drive the ball necessarily very hard, but he finds a way to get on base. He does what they need him to do. And I think that's kind of what propelled them, as we saw going to the World Series last year, was just 1 through 9, a lot of chaos on the bases, guys getting on, working deep counts. And that's what they've been doing since July 1st. And it's been a real recipe for success for them. And we'll see if they can keep it going.
All right, we hope that they can. It's always fun when there's some competition there in the NL West. Down to the finish. Steve Gilbert with MLB.com. Thank you as always for the insight.